has been a busy week in the world of sports and here locally in Chicago as the Bears are introducing their new president in Kevin Warren. The Bulls in Paris really show out and have a great performance against Detroit Pistons. And of course, we have the AFC and NFC divisional round coming up this Saturday and Sunday. But we have to start this conversation this weekend, this Sports Cubicle, with the marvelous one, Dan Marver, Devin Tingle, Paul Chivari, and myself, Mike Mercado, with George McCaskey introducing the replacement of Ted Phillips in Kevin Warren. I think an inspiring hire and what seems to be a really, really defined and a really interesting individual in Kevin Warren. And marvelous, we have some audio we got to listen to from both George and Kevin. But before we get to that, marvelous, your thoughts on hiring of the former Big Ten commissioner that brought in USC and UCLA and helped lead the Big Ten during the pandemic, and a former executive that helped build a stadium in Minnesota, has been with Detroit and LA. Your thoughts on the new man in charge over at Hallis Hall, over at Soldier Field, and soon to be over at Arlington Heights?
Well, he did the job in the Big Ten. He got the LA market, and he's going to do the job here in getting a replica of US Bank Stadium in Arlington Heights, I believe. That's the main reason for the hire, I believe. And he has experience, and I believe that Soldier Field might become home of the Chicago Jaguars someday. You never know.
It is something you and I have talked about a lot. It is something I do believe that there will be another team in Chicago, whether it is Soldier Field or it is the new stadium in Arlington Heights. That is something you and I are going to be talking about for a long time because we are sports nerds, we are stadium nerds, and we love this conversation. But I think, marvelous, what I really want to run through you and kind of bounce some opinions are some notes I took from this press conference, because you are somebody who's seen the regime of this Bears team really be in the family. Same with me. As long as I've been a fan, this has been a family ran organization. And now with the hire of Ryan Poles and the hire of Kevin Warren, including some of the awesome young executives in the front office that they have promoted, this is a team that has really kind of not gone away from that and are more entrusting in people, not just people with the same bloodline. So I want to get your thoughts. So I think we should first start with George. And as he introduces the new CEO and president of the Chicago Bears, Kevin Warren.
Papa Bear is smiling today. He knows there is plenty of work to do on the field, but I'm confident he would be pleased with the handing of the baton from one accomplished executive to another to continue the stewardship of his beloved Bears. Kevin possesses the qualities that we were looking for in our next president and CEO. The winner they deserve. It is with pride and a grateful heart that I present the next president and chief executive officer of the Chicago Bears, Kevin Warren.
And that was George McCaskey introducing Kevin Warren. And I think the note of that is George McCaskey giving us the chain of command, that we know that Ryan Poles will report to Kevin Warren. And I think what a lot of people are wondering, or we're wondering, and I think it was made clear both from what we're about to hear from Kevin Warren and what we just heard from George McCaskey, is Kevin Warren's in charge. They're going to lean on him. This is the guy that they have chosen. This is their Theo. This is their guy, their Kenny Williams. This is their John McDonough back in the good days of what they want to do with this organization moving forward, getting to the modern day. And I think having Ryan Poles go to Kevin Warren, and that's it. That's your chain of command. Matt Eberflus reports to Poles. Poles reports to Warren. What did you take from George in his opening statement?
That's exactly right. It's just what they were looking for. A guy that's had the experience and a guy that's brought a spiffy new stadium to the market, as he did in Minneapolis, and he has all the skill set that they need. And it's a good thing to see them moving outside the family, because I have a feeling that that's the way it's going to be in the next 10 years or less. I think the family might divest themselves a little bit of the Bears, or maybe totally, because I'm not sure if the youngers are going to want to keep the Bears after the olders are gone.
And that is why it is important to get somebody who's going to do it properly, right? To get somebody talented. And I think when you hear from Kevin Warren in just a second, it's really important to kind of see how this guy ended up becoming a commissioner of the second biggest league conference entity in college football, has been an executive around the NFL, and you'll hear his story. And we want to give courtesy and a thanks to the Bears YouTube channel. If you want to hear the entire press conference, it's their Chicago Bears YouTube channel. That's where we got this audio from George McCaskey, and we're about to hear from Kevin Warren. So with that, let's listen to the new president of the Chicago Bears, Kevin Warren. We might pause it every few minutes just to kind of talk a little bit about what he said, and then we'll recap the entire thing. But I think this is a very interesting insight on the guy who is now leading the Bears into this really what could be prosperous future for this organization, for this tentpole, for this team that is a pillar, and what should be a pillar of the National Football League. So here's the new president of the Chicago Bears, Kevin Warren.
George, thank you for those kind words. I really appreciate it. And first and foremost, to God be the glory to stand before you here today. This journey really started a little over 30 years ago. And I think the gentleman who helped me start this journey is here, and Chris Zorich. He asked me to represent him as his agent in 1992. And the good thing about that day and that time, I had just started my sports agency. Chris was my first client, and for the first year was my only client, which afforded me the opportunity to really learn and understand truly what the Chicago Bears stands for and what it means. So I was blessed with the opportunity to attend all of his home games at Soldier Field, sit in the stands with the incredible fans of the Chicago Bears. And Chris, I want to thank you. It's amazing how the good Lord works. I never would have thought 30 years ago that when you and I would go to those games and I would wait for you outside the locker room and had the chance to negotiate your contract with Ted, that I'd be standing here today. And I just want to thank you for having faith in a 27-year-old person to represent you. And I will forever be grateful. So Chris Zorich, thank you very much. Today's special. I'm excited. I'm energized. And I'm honored to stand before you today. And I want to thank so many people. First, I do want to thank George Halas. Thank God that he was able to get the Decatur Staleys and bring them here to Chicago, and had the vision to be a player and a coach and an executive and an owner. I want to thank the Halas family. I want to thank the McCaskey family. George, the relationship that we've developed, that we had in the league is very special to me. And it's an honor that Mrs. Virginia McCaskey is still living and here and vibrant. I want to thank Ted Phillips. Ted was one of those individuals during our journey, during the interview process, but even going back 30 years that you looked to and said that they did it the right way. Many of people have asked me, why the Bears? Why this time? It's because of the challenge, the opportunity. I trust Ryan. I trust Coach Matt that we're going to do things the right way. We're not going to take shortcuts. We're going to build an incredible franchise. I came here to win championships, to win the NFC North, to win the NFC, to win the Super Bowl, to help shepherd and lead a stadium development project, to embrace our alumni, to embrace our history and tradition, and to embrace the absolutely incredible Chicago Bear fans.
All right, I want to pause there for just a second. That is the new president, CEO of the Chicago Bears, Kevin Warren, in his introduction press conference. You can get the entire audio over at the Bears YouTube channel. You are here on the Sports Cubicle with the marvelous one, Dan Marver, Devin Tingle, Paul Chivari, and myself, Mike Mercado. A very exciting time for this new regime, for the fandom, for the charter franchise of the Chicago Bears, of your Chicago Bears. And marvelous, some stuff I wanted to run past and run through with you, since you are our oracle when it comes to Chicago sports. You have seen and heard all of them come and go. But some things I've noted from Kevin Warren. First of all, the acknowledgement of, and really hitting it home, the history of the Chicago Bears. This is a team that has done a very bad job of really, and I hate using the word exploiting, but really acknowledging and taking advantage of their history, how cool it is, and how unique of its family ran, still kind of the mom and pop shop that the Bears are. And you can hear him really talking about former players, alumni. And this is something the Bears didn't do well over the years. How long did it take for them to acknowledge Mike Ditka, for Christ's sakes? Like, we talk about, this team just didn't do things right for a long time. And some of the first things he mentions is making sure that they know this is who you are. This is who you are at the dinner table. Make sure you hold yourself, and that's how we're going to hold ourselves in that kind of esteem. And you then hear about them. No, we're also, everybody in Dallas gets celebrated. Everybody in Pittsburgh gets celebrated. Everybody in San Francisco does. Should be the same way here in Chicago. And you can hear that in his, not just his opening statement, but the sentiment, the way he's speaking on it. I think there's some conviction behind it. Your thoughts on that?
He definitely checked all the boxes. He went back to his first job at age 27 as an agent for Chris Zorich. So he made the Bears connection right away. And then obviously talked about everything, the history of the Bears. And all of this has never really been emphasized in the past. And alumni, and everything sounded so perfect the way he presented it. So, definitely it's a great hire. And it looks like, he wants to win the the NFC North and the NFC, and the championship. And those are platitudes, but those are definitely goals that should be spoken to and attained.
And it's great that he's saying it. He's putting it out there. He's not, kind of going around it. And he mentions, we're going to get into the football side at the end of it, because there's some stuff I want to talk about, the Big Ten connection to the Chicago Bears, but the new stadium, they're not hiding from it anymore. And in his media rounds that he did after this press conference, that they are going all in, and he is excited. You talk about getting this very, distinguished man has sat there. This person who is kind of a unicorn in this way, he was able to do all this and manifest all this. He's looking at his chops, and you hear when he says it, all the land and the acres that the possibilities of Arlington Park in Arlington Heights, what they can do. And we saw the render plan of what it looks like a really nice stadium. And I don't know if the taxpayers in Cook County and the entire state are going to be paying for two stadiums, and one a renovation and one a brand new one. That's something, again, we'll talk about as the months and years progress. But you can hear that they are excited and they're leaning into that. So you're with me now. Like, I've been on this train for a while, that they've been moving even before they officially made a bid, but this just confirms that they are going to be in the suburbs of Chicagoland.
Absolutely. And the Giants and the Jets don't even play in New York State. So at least we'll be in the same state. So we got that on the other teams. Obviously, Detroit, at times was playing in Pontiac. So I mean, and the Dolphins don't play in Miami anymore. So this is the way it is. It's ultimately about money, of course, and luxury suites and concerts, Super Bowls. It's going to work out well for the Bears ownership financially.
I'm glad you brought that up too. If you look at something like SoFi Stadium, right? Like, and the Bears aren't going to get SoFi. That's just a little bit too rich for what this family can afford right now. Maybe 50 years from now, when they want to build another one, and the generational wealth, or it's sold to Jeff Bezos, whatever, then they will be able to make their own complete version of Jerry World or SoFi. But that idea of what the Cubs did, right? Of allowing it to be a place where 365, you can have things happening. You can have your Christmas town, and you can have your holiday town. You can have your Halloween town, and then you can have your concerts, your Final Fours, your WrestleManias, your Super Bowls, your concerts. You could bring in all these different things. And quite frankly, we'll see what it does for employment, because IDOT and everything has to be involved with being able to make sure transportation is able to get there. We'll see how property value and hotels and all this. So there's a lot of intriguing things that people can hold on to, while also having a critical eye on who's going to pay for all this. And you brought in a guy who has connections, who's going to be able to find a way to fundraise and make it hopefully as painless as it can be for the citizens and the residents of Cook County and the state of Illinois. That's something, of course, we're going to be keeping an eye on here on the Sports Cubicle and WCPT. But yeah, you can hear that they are all in on the new stadium. But why don't we continue and finish up the last half of Kevin Warren's introduction as the president and the CEO of the Bears, the new man in charge, Kevin Warren.
That's why I'm here. We will continue to do it the right way. We will work hard. We will have fun. We will be diligent. We will be detailed. We will be methodical. We'll operate with integrity and honor at every step of the way. This is a special time in the NFL for the Chicago Bears. Everything's ahead of us. Greatness is ahead of us. All we need to do now is go and grasp it. Put in the time, energy, and effort. This is the best NFL football city in the country. We have the best ownership, phenomenal leadership, good, young, talented players, the best fans, phenomenal alumni, 30 people in the Pro Football Hall of Fame. It's all here. And I am so excited. I'm honored. I'm humbled to be able to come to work here each and every day. It's amazing when you look at your life, how you sometimes ask yourself when you're going through something, what is that for? What is that about? Why did that happen? Why did I learn that? Why did that go this way? But it's days like today that you recognize that it all comes together and that everything in all of our lives happened for a reason. And I'm honored to stand before you today. There are a couple other people that I truly want to thank who've been there, especially my wife, Greta, who's here. To have a partner for over 30 years who always shoots it straight with you. And as she said, from day one, this feels right. This feels like home. I trust the McCaskies. I trust this franchise. I love Chicago. So Greta, thank you for being a partner. Thank you for always being there with some of my wild thoughts. I really, really appreciate you being there from a support system. And then to have my son, Powers, and my daughter, Perry, and May, who's been my administrative assistant for 32 years. It's good to see May and Chris back together. And then Saul and Emily and Saman and Q, just to be here. I'm a relationship person. It's about relationships. It's about family. And I'm looking forward to building a incredible culture here with the Chicago Bears, to meet with every employee one-on-one, to ask them some simple questions. If you were a member of the McCaskey family, what would you do to bring a championship? What can we do to help you on a daily basis? Tell me one thing that we can change to make this an incredible place. So I am so humbled, I'm honored, I'm grateful to stand here. And I know I think Pat and Brian McCaskey are here. I want to thank you all for everything that you've done. I know we'll be spending a lot of time together. So this is a special day as we move forward in a journey. I'll always be transparent with you. I'll be honest and straightforward. And I'm looking forward to making this home for a very long time and bringing championships home to Chicago.
That was Kevin Warren, the new CEO and president of the Chicago Bears. That audio courtesy of the Chicago Bears YouTube channel. Check it out if you want to hear the entire hour press conference, including the questions that were asked by the media. And marvelous, as we're here on the Sports Cubicle with the marvelous one, Dan Marver, Devin Tingle, Paul Chivari, and myself, Mike Mercado. There's one thing that I took from this, right? He seems like a sweetheart of a guy, like just a very nice dude. Now, I don't want to say he's one of these guys you could go have a beer with. You know, we're not talking about politics in that sense, but I do just think like he seems like a good dude, but he seems cutthroat. He seems like a no-nonsense guy. He seems like a guy who knows what he wants, how to run a ship. And at the very end of that opening statement, before he started opening it up to questions, the one thing you heard is he's going to talk to every employee. And by employee, for everybody who's listening, he's not talking about the training staff. He's not talking about, Justin Fields. We'll get to that in a second. He's not even talking to Matt Eberflus. He's talking to the other executives, the people in the offices, the people who you would say, if you watch the movie Office Space, what exactly is it that you do around here? Because there are going to be a lot of people who are going to be gone that had jobs here because of the family, because of their connections, a little White Sox-y, if you will, a little Bulls-y, if you will. And that's not going to be the case here. You're going to see what they did in a lot of different organizations for here locally. For example, what the Blackhawks and Cubs did. They're going to invest in R&D. They're going to invest in scouting. And you're going to see how imagine he's a real estate agent. He's going to evaluate your house's worth. And now he's going to tell you what renovations you need to make, what additions you need to make sure this is viable and feasible for not only if you sell it, but for the immediate actions of what you're trying to do. So I think that's initially what I got. So after hearing kind of the end of it, before we get to the connection with QB1 and his role as Big Ten commissioner, your thoughts of the guy himself from the first, 15 minutes we heard of the new CEO and president of the Bears, Kevin Warren?
Well, he was humble and honored. And he said that everything, he was sort of almost a religious tone. Everything happens for a reason. So I guess he's feeling that this is his destiny. So therefore, he's been put here for a purpose, and that purpose is to win championships. Then you're right, there will be some house cleaning. And based upon his past history, there is evidence of success. I mean, Minnesota didn't win any Super Bowls, but maybe he'll be able to do that here. Obviously, the talent on the field is the ultimate decider of what happens. So, again, the platitudes are nice, all the right words, all the boxes are checked, and the proof of the pudding is down the road, I would say.
And down the road, it's the most important thing for one particular player in Chicago, as the Bears are on the clock. And we're going to have a lot of fun talking about how they might get Michael Pittman, the 4th round pick, and a future one. They might end up getting Devontae Adams. They'll move down to number 2, then to number 3, then to number 5, and they'll stockpile all these picks. But the only thing that is certain, or what seems to be certain, is QB1 is number 1, Justin Fields. And we know that there was a little bit of a rift, a little bit of some drama, a little bit of beef between Kevin Warren, the Big Ten, some Big Ten commissioners, head coaches, and Justin Fields himself of the 2020 pandemic season. And Kevin Warren and a bunch of his media scrums mentioned that these are type A personalities, especially a cat like Justin Fields. And these guys just want to know what your decision-making process is. How did you get there? And the one thing I took from him was he's reasonable. He's a reasonable guy. He may not agree with everything, just like a lot of us don't have to agree with everything that goes on or how we handle certain situations. But the reasonable people, the people who are successful, are able to attain information and able to make a responsible, informed decision. And somebody like Kevin Warren, I feel, is like that from the work we've seen in that turmoil of a situation while he was also trying to get a new TV deal and expand the Big Ten. And for that to be with Justin Fields, but specifically with Justin Fields, who he had to speak with, who he had the most drama with, I think there is something to them being able to hash that out. And then the next thing you know, he's the quarterback of your team, leading you into the future. And both of your, you would say, careers trajectory kind of rely on each other. What did you think about the history of Justin Fields and Kevin Warren kind of being connected to the hip too?
That's correct. Obviously, he did show some flexibility in that 2020 season. If you recall, there was some decisions that were made that were changed or flipped once the feedback, shall we say, came from the teams, the players. If I recall correctly, they weren't going to complete a season at one point, but they did, and it was a tough call. I mean, nobody really knew what to do. Even now, as we speak, Northwestern basketball has postponed 2 games due to COVID. So it was a complete unknown, and they made the best of it that they could. And you're right, there was some friction, and I mean, maybe that's part of the destiny that they're together now and everything's patched up.
And I think that is it in itself, though, is how cool this is. It could all obviously flame out, right? The Bears can mess up the number 1 pick. Justin Fields can end up being a flash in the pan, and Kevin Warren can help sink the ship even further. That's all within possibilities. I mean, this is the NFL. That's more than likely what can happen. But I think if you're just kind of looking at, if you're somebody who plays the stock market, or you like to buy shoes on StockX, or whatever it is, you'd like to do trading cards. It's all about momentum and feel and kind of how everything else is shaping up. And at the very least, I think the Bears are putting themselves in a safe spot. May not lead to glory. You may not become the Rooneys or the Waltons or anything. But if you're consistent, if you're always around, wouldn't you give to be and I hate saying this, but how often the Vikings, even though they lose a lot, to be there, to be around, to be relevant? And this was a season where a team that only won 3 games was relevant because of all the moves they're making. And this is the last point I'll make because we got a lot left here on the show. I think what's cool about this team is if you look at that press conference, if you look at that roster, that coaching staff, a lot of mixed people, a lot of different personalities, a lot of different walks of life. And then the big 3, your quarterback, your GM, and now your CEO, influential Black men in the city of Chicago on a family that was a strictly family-ran team. Things are changing. This isn't an indication that things are going to be better on the field. This is an indication that they're listening to change, that they're willing to change. Whoever the person is, if they think that's what's best for the team, that's important. And this is the first time we've seen that. So Marvelous and I are going to be here to break it all down. We'll be talking about trades. We'll be talking about the NFL draft, which happens to fall on my 33rd birthday. So what an awesome birthday game it would be if I could get myself a wonderful pass rusher and a wide receiver and some more draft picks for our Chicago Bears. But with that, we want to know your thoughts. What did you think about the press conference from Kevin Warren, the new CEO and president of the Chicago Bears? We're on Twitter at Sports Cubicle TV. It's the Marvelous One, Dan Marver. It's Devin Tingle. It's Paul Chivari. I'm Mike Mercado.